Hey there, guys. Time to take another shooting question. All right, I have your book. Not done reading yet, by the way. Had to get back to reread something I just understand. Okay. I've watched almost everything you put out for training. My question is a two-part question. Number one, how do you get the second shot so fast and accurate, as well as how do you prevent or stop drag on or off shots whenever you transition to the next target for the Rapid 2? All right, so what this guy's asking, I mean, I don't think he's trying to blow smoke up my ass. He's like, how do you get the second shot so fast and accurate, and prevent drag off? So if people don't know what that is, here's what's going on with that. Like, let's say I have two targets out in front of me here, and I'm gonna go 2 rounds, fire, fire on one target, 2 rounds, fire, fire on another target. Um, at high speeds, what ends up happening is instead of like that, where the gun stopped and then you saw my finger actuate the trigger. I know it's happening at high speed. It's a little hard to see. They'll do this. And if you watch close, you know the gun was moving off the first target as I was still actuating the trigger. Um, yeah, and what'll happen there is that's called a drag off. Like the gun is moving off the target as I'm pulling the trigger. Now, what I find is like that is a product of people's dry fire training. And that's when they have a really tight par time set with their timer and they're forcing themselves to do it really fast. All right. You're not actually shooting bullets, so there's not as much accountability. And it's really easy to do this thing where people are just kind of sweeping the gun through the targets and pulling the trigger and making the time, but the bullets wouldn't be going where they'd want them to go. Um, the thing I've found that helps this or mitigates this quite a lot is on the fast transitioning training or like multiple targets, shooting them fast. Just stop pulling the trigger. So instead, you just like look, get a sight picture you would react to, look to the next target, and the gun will go to the next target. And you just make yourself get sight pictures really fast instead of pulling the trigger and accounting for like the time for multiple rounds or any shit like that. You just make it a totally separate thing. Now it'll change the times. You'll be able to like do the same drills faster a little bit, but really it's like you just make it a visual discipline thing and you don't tie it to a trigger press. You're just like, look, sights, sights, go where they need to go. Sights, sights, go where they need to go. And it gets your eyes really, really disciplined. Again, this is coming from people. This is like the most common thing people do with dry fire, by the way. That is a training scar. It is a bad thing where they get their eyes really kind of undisciplined and the trigger finger moving as they sweep the gun through targets to make the time. And they do drag on or drag off um, shooting when they're transitioning, and they don't really have the discipline where they lock in on spots on the target. Of course, the other part of fast follow up shots is tons of like doubles drill training or stuff like that, where your grip gets really consistent. You know, it's the same connection every time, and you can run the trigger fast without, you know, putting input down onto the gun or your grip coming apart, and like the gun will just track right back to where you're looking. It is part a visual discipline thing and part a grip consistency thing. All right. Two, can you explain how to practice this in dry fire? Because that's my biggest issue now. I had the last few videos to isolate movement I had from pulling my firing hand whenever I used to squeeze the trigger hand when I fired a shot. Please and thanks, my Siga. Um, yeah, so again, strictly speaking in dry fire, like again, if I'm doing fast transitioning, it'd be a target over here, I could do this. I could practice it just like that. It wouldn't look any different. I'd be just pulling the trigger and all that. It would be the same. Like what the problem is for me, there's accountability on me to make sure that the sight was where it was supposed to be every single time I pulled the trigger. And then there's no feedback from targets. Like there's not holes in targets, obviously. So it's like I have to be very, very disciplined. Now, until you get more skill, it's difficult to trust yourself. Like your own self-assessment is difficult to trust. And that's why I would vary it up with like, hey, don't pull the trigger a bunch. And just do the same drills. No, don't tie it to a trigger press and just make the sight go where you want. and you'll be paying attention to it that way. And try doing that. And I think that gives you a different look at it, and it'll help you see what you're actually doing and make sure that you stop the gun on each spot where you want the bullets to go. All right. Anyway, I hope you find this helpful. You know, if not, that's cool too.